Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call. Today is February 1st, 2023. Things are really moving. This is going to be a shorter call today out of necessity. Our phones are being blown up. Our email is being blown up. Texts are coming in from everywhere. All of my contacts are talking to me. I have a contact in the Treasury Department. I have a contact in London. I have a contact in Dubai. I have several contacts in Iraq. I talk to them from time to time, but they've been contacting me. So things are coming at us from all directions. So this is going to be a brief call. I had actually planned a longer call. I had several pages of notes, and I spent the last hour or so trying to condense it down to what I want to discuss now. In addition, we've had several dozen people apply for one of our trusts, and so I've got to prioritize that because time may literally be of the essence. What I will suggest for those of you that are listening for the first time or will listen to the replay, I strongly suggest you go to our calls of January 18th and January 25th because there's some good information in there and a much more detailed explanation of the turnkey program we've put in place to assist you. I will touch on it briefly today, but again, an in-depth explanation can be found again on the call from the 18th and the 25th. And of course, to listen to replays, you just go to YouTube, type in TrustsUnlimitedLLC.com where indicated. Our calls will come up, and then you can select whatever date or dates you wish to listen to. So let's go ahead and get into our discussion today. Again, I'm trying to bottom line this information. I want to start with the three groups or entities that do not want to see, for whatever reason, the reinstitution and revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. They would be Iran, the pro-Iranian officials within Iraq, and certain elements of the American left in this country. I don't want to say Democrats because the people on the left are Democrats, but not all Democrats are hard left. So I'll just refer to the left. Now let's start with Iran. Iran has been pilfering from Iraq and using it as their personal piggy bank ever since the fall of the Shah of Iran. And the mullahs are, frankly, and I'm going to be charitable in saying this, they're just not good people. They pretty much hate everybody but themselves. And they treat everyone with disdain other than the really radical 12th Imam segment of the Shia sect. They don't even respect the moderate Shia, and we're going to be talking about the moderate Shia here. But with regard to Iran, a lot has been done to deal with them. First, the United States Federal Bank had sanctioned a number of Iraqi banks that were money laundering in order to get U.S. dollars to Iran. That was stopped. The auctions in Iraq, along with the exchange centers, have also been virtually shut down. And, of course, Iran has been skimming from those enterprises for decades. We also know that the balance of payments for imports and exports in Iraq is now being done electronically. So, again, they have made it virtually impossible for Iran to continue to skim. So this is all very, very good. Because Iran does not want to see an independent Iraq with their own functional global currency. Because, again, they're skimming from Iraq, and they don't want to see that sever of that relationship. Then we have the pro-Iranian officials in Iraq. They are the more radical segment of the coalition framework, and Maliki and his crowd. Fortunately, they have lost pretty much all of their clout. We had Kazemi that was the caretaker prime minister, although he did a superb job. And, of course, he was a moderate Shia. And as I've said often, the only way the government's really going to function right now, given the history of tribalism and sectarianism, is to have a government populated primarily by the moderate Shia, because the vast majority of Iraqis are, in fact, moderate Shia. And Kazemi did as much as could be inspected and much more as a caretaker prime minister. Soudani, who, of course, is a moderate Shia and also was part of the framework, the coalition framework, has followed in the footsteps of Kazemi, and he's really pushing forward with everything that needs to be done in order for Iraq to reinstitute their currency. The coalition framework also was not happy with the appointment of al-Awlaq as the governor of the central bank. Awlaq was an acolyte of Shabibi. Shabibi was the one that instituted the glide path for the reinstitution of the dinar over a decade ago. So it's kind of appropriate that his acolyte and second in command, Awlaq, now is the governor of the central bank. Of course, the framework immediately went to the courts in order to have Awlaq removed based on some absurd argument, and they were kicked to the curb on that. So they have failed completely with regard to their attempts to stop the reinstitution of the dinar and independence of Iraq from Iran. And lastly, Maliki is now officially a persona non grata. He may not suffer the consequences that he should, but he has lost all effective power in Iraq, and I think now it's finally permanent. Kazemi began the process, but Soudani basically slammed the door on Maliki, so that chapter hopefully has come to an end. Then we have the third group, the American left. Now this group, on the one hand, does not want to see the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar and its revaluation globally, because there are approximately 10 million Americans that are holders of the dinar. And 10 million new dinarians are not going to vote for larger government and higher taxes, which is what the American left wants. But the left here has a problem. Many of these individuals also hold dinar and some of these other currencies. And despite their best efforts, they can't figure out a way how they can profit from the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar, but cut the rest of us out. Believe me, they would love to do it if they could figure out how to do it. But they've come to the only rational conclusion, which is it's all or nothing. If it happens, all of us will benefit, not just their chosen few. The other issue is this, and they're a little torn on this. It's estimated that the U.S. Treasury has between 3 and 4 trillion dinar. Now, of course, with the reinstitution of that currency, then that's something the United States can utilize by going back to Iraq, the purchase of oil at substantially lower prices, which would be attractive to the left right now because they don't want to continue to produce oil here in this, or petroleum in this country. So if they have a mechanism to purchase it from someone else, they're willing to do that. The other issue is the revaluation of these currencies could provide the United States Treasury with a lot of money that they could use to reduce the deficit. Although, unfortunately, this posse of kleptocrats that are running the country right now don't really care about the deficit. They're going to spend that money for their new Green Deal, for the creation of their electric grid, to grease the palms of the individuals and the corporations that are doing their bidding. So we do have one trump card there, and that is that the House that's in charge of expenditures can pump the brakes on all of that. So hopefully the Republicans in the House, even though it's a very narrow group, if they stay united, they can stop a lot of what would happen to these newfound funds in the Treasury Department. Let's talk a little bit about Soudani. I mentioned him earlier, and as I said, he's following in the footsteps of Kazemi, but he's been a very busy person. In my opinion, he wants to see the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar, and he's literally pushing every obstacle aside. He's recently held a number of meetings with the board of directors of the Iraqi banks. He's not attending the third meeting with the U.S. Treasury and Federal Bank in the United States Federal Bank. He sent his group there, but he was at prior meetings, and they're meeting today to discuss the exchange rate. He is actively seeking membership for Iraq in the International Financial Action Organization. Now, this is an organization that deals with international purchases and sales, and of course, in order for Iraq to be an active member of that group, they have to have a functional international currency. So the presumption by applying for membership and the presumption of the group by accepting Iraq as a member is that they will have a functional international currency. Today, the Prime Minister announced the imminent return of a strong dinar at its original rate. Now, I kind of don't like the way they sort of play with words. Why can't he just say we're going to be reinstituted or we're going to have our old rate back? He referred to it as an original rate. Now, if he'd have said a previous rate, he theoretically could have been referring to going from 1600 to 1450 or 1190. But he said original rate. As far as I'm concerned, it means going back to the time prior to the dinar going into a program rate. And the rate of the dinar on the day that they became a program rate, or the dinar went into a program rate, was $3.48. So that's what we're looking at, and in my opinion, we're looking at it in a very short period of time. As I've said over the last few weeks, it's not that the dinar will reinstitute at any time, but given what's going on, it could reinstitute at any time, and nothing that's happened this week suggests anything other than they're moving very quickly to the reinstitution, to be followed shortly thereafter with the global revaluation. Now, the CBI, through ALAC, has also reaffirmed its unilateral ability to change the exchange rate and float the IQD. They also announced that the Iraqi banks will now be accepting all other foreign currencies. Well, if they're opening the door for other foreign currencies, that in essence means that their currency will be a foreign currency, meaning it will revalue globally. So everything that's happened is pointing to not only the reinstitution and revaluation of the dinar, but doing so in a very short period of time. Internationally, there's a lot going on as well. Nation states are pouring into Iraq to do business. The United States, nations in South America, nations as part of the EU, and the far left. The United States, now with the reinstitution of the currency, will really be able to purchase oil at a discounted rate utilizing that currency. Germany and France have just signed contracts to purchase oil from Iraq. It's particularly significant that Germany has done that because Germany was purchasing oil from Russia. And, of course, with the situation in the Ukraine, short of all-out war, the EU and the United States are looking for ways to undercut Russia, and one way to do that is to stop purchasing as much oil from Russia and purchasing from Iraq and other nations. China also is negotiating a substantial deal to purchase oil. They are purchasing from Russia, but they want to purchase from Iraq as well, and Japan wants to purchase from Iraq. And, of course, they're ignoring Iran, which, again, pushes Iran to the side. Iraq has also negotiated a massive infrastructure and security contract with Saudi Arabia. Of course, Saudi Arabia is the enemy of Iraq. So once again, they're distancing themselves from Iraq. And the end result is the pro-Iranian officials in the coalition framework have basically been neutered because they have nothing to offer Iran because the government's moving in another direction and away from Iran. So in my opinion, given the information of the last week, we've officially reached what I would call the point of no return. I've always argued that the dinar would have to reinstitute at some point, and with Basel III compliance and Basel IV now in place, they need to reinstitute their currency. But now we've reached a point where they have to revalue. The dollar, of course, the dollar crisis in Iraq is creating a problem. The United States Federal Bank has capped dollars being sent to Iraqi banks. With the dinar being as weak as it is, you can't purchase much with it, so people who have hoarded USD are going to spend that USD. So there's not only a shortage of USD, there's actually a shortage of dinar on the street because of its short-term devaluation. So the only solution to this problem is the reinstitution of the dinar and returning purchasing power to the Iraqi citizen. And this is why the citizens have been protesting in massive numbers in front of the CBI for the last few weeks. Fortunately, there's been no violence or bloodshed, and I hope that won't occur. But they have a very legitimate argument, and they're saying it is time to reinstitute our currency for our citizens. And I think we've reached that. Now, for over a decade, we've been marketing our trust package to dinarians for a number of reasons. What I'm going to do very briefly, because again, this is a shorter call, I've got so much going on, I want to very briefly touch on the reasons that dinarians need to establish this trust and why all Americans, particularly dinarians who are going to be entrusted with this newfound wealth, are going to need to establish our trust package. By establishing this trust package, you're going to preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That means no one's going to know your net worth or your actual holdings. That means that no one will know that you've got this newfound wealth. And all Americans will be able to protect their wealth by placing it in this trust package, which is sealed. For those that have currencies, if your currencies have been assigned to our trust package, you will have transferred this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. There are tax advantages to this, but the initial one is the IRS will not be able to do a 6-year audit because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. Within this trust package is our special gift sub-trust. Many of the people that do hold dinar are gifting currencies to family and friends as well as philanthropic and church endeavors. But with the establishment of this sub-trust within our package, not only will you be able to avoid a federal gift tax by gifting currencies to family and friends pre-RV, but you will be able to control the post-RV lump sum for these individuals. And there are any number of reasons why people are hesitant to give certain friends and families this lump sum. By establishing this trust, you're going to avoid the cost and delay of probate because this trust will allow you to circumvent probate, and you'll be able to avoid the federal estate tax entirely. And depending upon the size of your estate, when it's passed to your heirs, the federal estate tax can be as much as 65% of your entire estate. Lastly, this trust will protect you from civil litigation both pre- and post-RV, making it extremely expensive, extremely time-consuming, if not impossible, for anyone to sue you for this newfound wealth. One last issue I want to touch on, and it's something called the Hamilton Project. Pursuant to Joe Biden's Executive Order 14067, they've begun the transition to a digital currency. So we will be operating with a central bank digital currency. On my previous calls, and I touched on this on my calls on January 18th and January 25th, the last thing in the world that we want is for the federal government to have complete control and I would argue ownership of our currency. By establishing this trust, we can show you how you can operate outside of the central bank digital currency system to minimize the amount of control that the federal government can have over you vis-a-vis their control of your currency. Because remember, currency is what you utilize to transfer all of the other goods and services that you want in life. And if they control the central bank digital currency, they can freeze your currency, they can confiscate your currency, they can block the purchase of certain goods and services. But if you operate outside of that system, they have very limited opportunity to do that. So this is why this trust product is indispensable for all Americans in a high surveillance, high tax, high control currency state. If there was some way they could disallow your ability to establish a trust package like this, they would. But pursuant to Section 1, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, and pursuant to Amendment Section 1, Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution involving your right to contract, and the Fourth Amendment of the contract of the Constitution regarding your right to privacy, they cannot stop you from establishing the types of trust that will allow you to have the privacy and anonymity you want and to let you operate outside of their system. Our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold assigned currencies pre-RV and financial accounts like bank accounts, investment accounts post-RV, our gift subtrust, which is an optional subtrust, which can be converted to a standard subtrust at any time, and 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold homes, cars, boats, etc., which subtrust will be managed by your master trust. Now, this trust package was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But when we established this trust package, we knew for dinarians, we knew that that price tag would be unaffordable for many. So by simplifying the package, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. There are a number of ways you can pay for that. Pay us up front, we'll discount the price to $2,500. That's not possible. We do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would offset our initial costs just to produce and deliver your trust to you. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation globally of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would then need to be paid within 30 days. One other suggestion. If you pay us by credit card, not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your card would be less than the $100 a month you'd pay under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you in whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your trust in force and your affairs in order prior to the revaluation of these currencies for all of the reasons we've discussed here today and in the past. Now, you can contact us by going to our website, which is trustswithans.unlimitedllc.com. If you're interested in getting our trust package, you can either contact us by email, which is trustswithans.unlimitedllc at gmail.com. That's trustswithans.llc@gmail.com. Or you can contact us by our phone service, which is 307-472-4122. Contact us. We'll be happy to get you our initial no-obligation package out. It has a lot of information about us, about trust, about the revaluation. The package does contain everything you need if you wish to proceed with the establishment of your trust, but again, you're under no obligation to do so. You can review the package, contact us if you have any questions. we'll be happy to assist you. There will be no consultation fee. This has been a very, very good week for us in Iraq. Let's hope this continues. Of course, we will have a call next Wednesday. Certainly, if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, we'll try to get out an emergency email and schedule an emergency conference call. But failing that, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and let's all have a very great week. Bye-bye.